Good evening, knickknackers. So today I am working on some frog balls or pickled Brussels sprouts. I am not a huge fan of Brussels sprouts. I actually can't stand them. But I have found that sometimes pickling kind of changes the flavor of things so that they're a little bit more palatable for me. So Brussels sprouts have been on sale because of the holidays, and I thought, why not? I watched a video the other day on them, and I thought, you know, I think I'm going to try these. So I had bought 2 pounds, and the recipe calls for 3, but I figured I'd move it up to 4 because I've had to cut the ends off and then take some of the layers off, and I have been cutting them in half. The recipe that I have doesn't call to do that, but I mean, a whole Brussels sprout's going to be a lot for a bite, but I think because if you cut them in half, I think grabbing one with a fork and being able to pop it in your mouth would be just a little bit easier. So that's what I've been doing. I have most of them done already, but I thought I'd bring you along and show you what I've been doing. So I've been cutting the ends off of a couple of them at a time. And I've had to throw some just completely away because you cut and then there's, you can see where worms have gotten in there. And if I run across one, I'll show you. But so far, these ones don't look too bad. So I just cut off the ends, and then a lot of the leaves will just kind of pull away because you've cut off where they connected. And then I take a look and see this one still has a little bit of a spot. I don't know how well that'll come through, but there's still a spot there on that top leaf there. Take a look at it, and that looks fantastic. And then I've just been cutting them in half and making sure that the insides still look good, because sometimes those worms can kind of get in there. So I've just been making sure that they're still clean and popping them, getting them ready. Take off those outer leaves. They still look a little kind of bruised, and I mean, not horrible, but I really want them to be aesthetically pleasing when they're in the jars. So if there's any mark or anything on them, I either take off the whole leaf if it looks like it's going to be quite a bit, or on a couple of them I've even just cut off a small piece just because that was the only bad spot that I saw. Cut it in half, and I will continue working until the rest of these are done, and then I'll bring it back. All right, so the recipe calls for a lemon cut into slices, and then a jalapeno cut into 12 slices. I think I have the equivalent of about 14 there. I did cut the end, you can see right there, in half instead of, because they get smaller with the circles, and I just thought it worked out better that way. And then over here, don't mind my mess, I'm working on a different project there. I have the Brussels sprouts, and if I push them down, they're covered in water, but we need to get that to boiling, and they will boil for 4 minutes, and then I can drain them. I'll get the brine going, and I'm probably going to use this same pot, so I'll bring you back when I have the brine in there and it's getting hot, and we can start packing our jars up, and I'll show you what they look like. All right, so we are waiting for the brine to heat up, and I thought while we're waiting for that, just to get a little bit hotter, I would tell you some more of the recipe. So the brine consists of 5 cups of white vinegar, 2 cups of water, and 1/3 cup of salt. The recipe also calls for 24 black peppercorns. I don't buy peppercorns, and I'm not going to spend my money on something that I very seldom ever use. So I'm actually going to just put in a teaspoon or a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper and 12 garlic cloves. So I have mine minced, and each teaspoon equals a clove, and 6 dill heads. I don't have any fresh dill, so I have my dried dill weed that I'll be using. Probably a little bit less than what heads would equal out to, but I think it'll be fine. So we're just going to wing that part of it. I already showed you the jalapeno pepper and the lemon. So I think that is getting really hot. Oh yeah, the salt is all dissolved. Yeah, that looks great. Okay, so let's get a jar out here. So let's see, the book says, stuff out of the way here. Okay. Place 4 peppercorns, and I'm just going to use my ground up. We'll do a 1/4 teaspoon in there. Let's see, 2 garlic cloves. So we'll get our teaspoons out. 1, 2. 1 dill head. So I think I'm gonna do, oops, where'd my dry tea? There we go. I think I'm gonna do a 1/2 teaspoon to start out with. And I've used my dried dill in the past, and I will tell you that it does float up to the top, but the flavor it still imparts into the whatever you're pickling. It also calls for 2 jalapeno slices in each jar. So there's 2 there. And let's see. Oh, and our lemon slice. So let's get a lemon slice in there. Okay, put that on the bottom, and then we're going to start putting our I'm not sure that I'm going to have 6. I think cutting these in half might have been a way to kind of put them a little bit more, pack them a little bit more in the jar. We'll see. That doesn't really look like 6 pints to me, but we will find out together. And we're just going to ladle our brine over the top. And we're going to debubble. And I think it's going to be a 1/2 inch, yeah, 1/2 inch headspace. That's just about there. You can see it gets to that line right there. So that looks good. My guess is our Brussels sprouts are going to float a bit. I can tell that they're kind of loose in there, which will be just fine, I think. So let's rip off the rim, especially since I'm using that dill weed, the dried. I don't know if that shows up on there, but that can get up and under the lid, so you want to make sure that you're wiping that off really well. And then we'll get a lid. Oh, and I forgot my rings, of course, because I always forget my rings. Let's line that up with the name, just because I like it like that. And I'll go grab a ring real quick. All right, so there's those. And I'll get that in the canner, and I'll do one more. So a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. And I think that 1/4 teaspoon is going to give it a nice little heat along with the jalapeno slices. The dill, dried dill weed. I wonder if you could use the dill seed too. Those might actually work out better for not floating. Might have to try a jar or two just to see if there's a different flavor that you get from it. 2 jalapeno slices and a lemon slice. I must say I'm a huge cabbage fan, and when these were cooking, that's what I smelled was cabbage. So I don't know what it is about them. They just seem kind of bitter whenever I've made them. I've tried them a bunch of different ways. I've heard roasting them is really good. Sauteing them with butter is really good, but I'll tell you, I have yet to find a way that I just don't get a bitter aftertaste with them. So I'm really hoping that pickling these, cooking them for the 4 minutes first, and then kind of cooking them even longer in the brine will get rid of some of that bitter flavor. Okay. Oh, and I was going to tell you guys also, I don't know if you remember when I did my pickled okra the other day. Now, I had only had okra one way, and that was freeze-dried, and I thought it was delicious. But Becca and I opened up a jar of the pickled okra last night, and oh my goodness, it's so good. If you guys haven't tried it yet, I really recommend that you do. It is delicious. Very salty, I will tell you that. However, I found that almost all of the pickle recipes that I call for that I have done from the Ball Book call for a lot of salt. And so I think that's why they always end up so salty. But boy, I'll tell you, the okra was delicious. I spent the day with my mom today, and she was telling me how she's had okra before, but she can't stand how slimy it is. And I said, you know, I don't know if it's because it was sitting in the vinegar, if that kind of eats away at whatever the coating that is, but these were not slimy in the least. Just really, really, I got a hint of that okra flavor that I'd had with the freeze-dried stuff, and the pickle flavor is just good. That's why I make so much pickled stuff. But, oh man, they were really, really tasty. You don't need a whole lot of them because a little goes a long way, but very good. So I'm anxious to try these in a couple of weeks to see how these taste. And I'll try to remember when I open up a jar to bring you guys along with me, because I'm sure sometimes it'd be nice if you could see how we view things once they're done. Not just seeing them, you know, how they look in the jars, but actually how we find their flavors. So yeah, these will be floating when they come out of the canner, but that'll be okay. They're already kind of starting to float up there. With a little bit of time, they'll sink down to the bottom, but I'll show you when they come out, because I'm pretty certain that there's going to be a lot of space between the pickled veg and the bottom of the jar, but that's okay. All right, well, there is jar number 3. Ooh, you can see the lemon and the jalapeno really good on the bottom of that one. So I'm going to go ahead and finish jarring these up, and I will bring you back when I get all of my Brussels sprouts used up. And here they are out of the canner. A little bit of floating, but I kind of expected that. I could kind of tell when I was debubbling that they weren't packed in there super tight, but that's okay. I ended up getting 6 pints, and they water bathed for 15 minutes. Let them cool off, and then I took them out, and now they're going to be sitting here until tomorrow sometime. All right, well, I just want to thank you guys so much for watching my videos, and I hope you guys have a great day. See you again next time. Bye-bye.